I shoot a lot of large format film. I love the look that film gives me. I love slowing down. I love working with these cameras. Just this past weekend, I had 2 people email me that want to get started into large format photography. So instead of sending them back an email, I'm going to take you through what it takes to kind of get up and running to start shooting your own large format photography. One of the things that I choose is field cameras to use. This is a little bit more expensive field camera. This is a little cheaper field camera. Now you can use a studio camera, that's fine, but you're gonna find them a lot bigger, cumbersome, heavier. They're gonna be really hard to transport and move around. With field cameras, obviously you take them in the field, you can work with them, you can shoot with them. I love the field cameras because they fold up really nice and small. This one and this one, they're both metal field cameras, so you'll get a lot of protection when you're out in the field. There's also wood field cameras as well. Wood cameras, which I have one too, are beautiful. They work great, lots of movements on them, but they're a lot more delicate, and I live in Canada. You gotta watch in the winter time when you're out in the snow, they're a lot more delicate that way. So for me, a field camera is the way I go. Now, if you're on a budget, the Speed Graphic here is a great camera to get. You can find them on eBay for a couple $100, anywhere from $200 to $500, depending on the kind of condition that they're in. They almost all come with a lens. They either come with a 150 lens or a 135 lens. Now, 150 millimeter lens that's equivalent of a 50 millimeter on 35 millimeter. It's like a normal lens. A 135 or 127 is slightly wider, almost like a 35 millimeter lens. So if you're on a budget, this is a great way to go. The one thing that this camera has is that it has some movements. One of the things, especially when you're starting large format photography, one of the only movements you're going to need is rise and fall. And I'm going to take you through that in a later video on what movements do. But for right now, rise and fall is one of the key things that you'll need. Myself, this is my 1970 Super Technica Linhof camera. Somebody used this camera for about 40 years, 45 years. And then it had a few busted pieces, so I got a deal on this. I picked this up and I sent it away, got it fixed up. This is kind of like a classic car right now. This camera works perfectly. This camera, if I look after it, is gonna last easily for another 50 years. A camera like this, like the Linhof, is probably gonna run you in the $1,000 range, anywhere from the $1,000 to $1,500 range. These cameras are a little bit more expensive. They have a little bit more movements, but they're classics and they're wonderful to use. Out on eBay or in the regular world, you can find there's all kinds of great cameras. Toyo makes a great camera. Horseman makes a great camera. There's really no bad cameras out there. It's just a matter of going out and shooting pictures. You gotta find something that you like, that you're gonna use. I also love this because with the Linhof, I can shoot it handheld. This has a 150 millimeter lens on it right now, and I actually have it cammed so that I can use the rangefinder in the system, and I can hand hold it, and I can take a picture of it using it just handheld, which is a wonderful thing. I don't do that a whole bunch, but I do that a little bit. The next thing that you're gonna need is a tripod. You're gonna need a good solid tripod. Again, you don't have to spend a ton of money. I use Gitzo carbon fiber tripods. I like to keep my tripods lighter. That is one of the big things for me, because after you start getting the weight of the camera, the lens, holders, everything starts, you got to start walking around and everything's going to start weighing you down. So I like a light carbon fiber. Manfrotto makes them. There's a whole bunch of people that make great carbon fiber tripods. But again, you don't need a carbon fiber tripod. You can use whatever you want. I use a ball head with these little cameras because I like to adjust the movements really quickly. Some people like to use the 3-way heads where it's a little bit more precise and you're not going. But I find I've been a lifelong Leica photographer, but even when I'm shooting 4x5, I tend to start moving around really quickly and I'm looking for photographs really quickly. This is an Arca Swiss ball head. So depending on where your budget is, you want a head that's gonna support your camera. These cameras with the lens weigh anywhere from 4 to 6 to 7 pounds. So most heads out there are going to hold this camera hold this camera solid. One of the things you're gonna need is a light meter. I use a Sekonic L508. You can do incident, reflective, but it also has a spot meter setting that I use quite a bit too. And once you get more into shooting large format, you'll start using the spot meter setting quite a bit more as well. The other thing you're gonna need is a loop. Now loops you can get cheap, you can get super cheap ones for $15, and then you can get really expensive ones for $100. This is actually a great Canon loop, and I use this loop because, and you focus on the back of the ground glass like that. I use this loop because it's really good quality. The image remains super clear. The one thing I don't like about the cheaper loops is that oftentimes they'll cloud up really quickly and they scratch up really quickly. So you have to watch that. Invest in a good cable release. You're only gonna have one lens, so you only need one cable release or maybe a spare. I like a really good cable release because what I find is they're always in weird angles, and if they're not good, they will bend really quickly, they'll bind up. Sometimes this locking mechanism locks when you're taking an exposure, and that's a major pain. So look for a really good cable release that you can have and use for a long time. You're gonna need a couple of these, which are film holders. Film goes in here, one sheet at a time. Each holder will take 2 sheets. After you load them, they go in your camera. You pull the slide out, you take your photograph, you flip it around, and you put it back in. Basically, what everybody does is they use white for unexposed, and then they flip it around and use black. You're gonna need a little bit of film. I'm lucky because when a lot of people were getting out of shooting large format photography, I was gifted a lot of film. This is from 2014, and don't worry too much about, especially when you're just starting, if film is expired. Black and white film is good. Unless it's been baking in the sun for years, black and white film is gonna last a long, long time. So essentially, these are the elements you need to start large format photography. You can kind of get into this from anywhere from, I would say, $400 to $1,000 on the cheaper end. And if you get a higher end camera, it's probably gonna cost you up to about $1,500. The other thing that you'll need as well, and you can really use, you can use a jacket, you can use a t-shirt. I use a proper focusing hood, and this goes on the back of the camera like this, and then you go underneath, and then you can focus on the subject. So that's about it for getting started in large format photography. I love large format. I love the tones. I love what happens with portraits when you can make the background go out of focus. I love the look, the kind of the organic feel of film. I have nothing against digital. Digital is great. I have a ton of digital cameras, but I love slowing down and I love taking my time, and I love seeing that sheet of film after I develop it. In my next video, I'm going to teach you how to load these, and then after that, I'll take it out and shoot, and we'll go through a few movements. So I hope this has helped my friends out, and I hope this helps you too. Subscribe, there's gonna be more. Give it a like. Give me a comment if you wanna see something specific. I will try to make that happen for you. Cheers, till next time.